Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey guys, can everyone hear me? If you can, just type, if somebody could just type a message. Just want to make sure everything's hooked up properly. We're just going to give it a minute, give everybody a chance to get on. Okay, it's just 7, so I'm just going to wait just a few more seconds. I have a good number on already. Hope everyone's doing good tonight. Thanks for joining me. I know it's hard on a evening to motivate yourself to sit in front of your computer and watch a webinar, so thanks for joining in. I know we have people from all over on the webinar tonight, so I hope everyone's managing all this craziness okay. I know there's a lot of Floridians on here, which is where I'm from. I live, and things are kind of crazy down here. So yeah, it's 7:01, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Jackie Miller, and I'm a coach with QT2 and Outrival. I'm also the team manager, and I have a few other responsibilities besides those things. It's a good time. So tonight we're going to talk about open water swimming and how to move your pool sessions into the open water and vice versa. Because I know most all of us spent at least a couple months of giving up our swim training because pools were closed, beaches were closed. I know some people might have been lucky enough to have some open water to swim in during quarantine, but definitely, no matter what, most of us are a little behind on our swim training. So I know a lot of people's pools have opened, so that's good for them, and other people's pools have not opened. And some people don't have a pool or any nearby open water to swim. And I know there's a couple people that I personally coach that are still without swimming pools, and they are not near a body of water to open water swim. So they're still doing their dry land training, which is definitely getting old by this point. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to cover I don't know how I just muted myself, but tonight we're going to talk about open water swim safety, and we're going to talk about taking our pool sessions and modifying them for the open water. And then if we don't have open water, I'm just going to give you some tips on trying to get race ready in your swimming pool. And then we're going to just cover, I know there's some very experienced athletes on here tonight, and they've probably done all types of race starts for Ironman and 70.3s. But there are some beginners on here as well. So we're just going to do a quick recap for those who are experienced and go over for those newbies the different types of swim starts that we will see at different Ironman and 70.3 races. And then just a few tips, a few personal tips on managing your swim and your swim start on race day. So this is not advancing for some reason. Every time I hit advance, it mutes me. Hold on. Sorry about this. I'm not sure what's happening here. Well, this is not good. Let's see. Let's try it this way. All right. So this is a picture of swim buoys, and we're going to talk about water safety. I know a lot of people, especially down here in Florida, a lot of us are using these swim buoys. They're very important to be more visible for lifeguards or for your swim buddies, so they can see you if you do get in trouble. They also act as a dry bag. So if you don't want to leave your car keys laying on the beach when you're out swimming for an hour, or you want to, pop a gel into the dry bag or a t-shirt or whatever, some sunscreen, you can pop all those into the buoy on the dry bag side. So these are actually just a real quick story. I did have a friend that was swimming out at the beach down here in Florida, and she was just a little bit past the buoy line where you're supposed to swim inside the buoy line. She was just slightly outside of the buoy line and actually got hit by a boat because they did not see her, and she was fine. It was just her arm got a little banged up, but that was it. But after that, she has never swam another day without wearing her swim buoy. So they are super safe, super helpful to be visible to others. So first of all, you should pretty much always have a swim buddy, at least one other person you're swimming with, just in case you do get in trouble. And you might be the strongest swimmer ever, but you never know what's going to happen, especially in the open water. If there are lifeguards there, that's kind of a little bit safer to swim by yourself, but it's still better to have someone that you're swimming with. Lifeguards have a lot of people to look after, and they're not always keeping their eye on us the whole time we're swimming. So it's a good idea to have at least one other swim buddy. If you're swimming in a group and you plan on meeting up, at the turnaround point or the halfway point, wherever that might be, it's always good just before you start your swim to do a head count and find out how many are in your group. So you make sure you start with the same number and end with the same number. You should always wear a bright colored swim cap when you're open water swimming, even if you are a guy with no hair, bald, whatever, it's not, to keep your hair dry or to keep it up out of your face. It's more or less to keep yourself visible, just like the swim buoy. Also, make sure you know the water you're swimming in. If it's somewhere you always swim, that's one thing. But if you're going somewhere on vacation or somewhere to swim for the first time, and even if it is the same place where you always swim, you should always check. You can check the surf report, you can check the weather for the water temperature. And then when you get out there, feel the water, notice what direction the current is moving in, if there's any chops, and be aware and knowledgeable if there are any rip currents in the area. And you can usually find this out on the news or from the lifeguards. And sometimes you can even see them if you can tell if there is a rip out there. If it's cold water, make sure you acclimate before you get in and go balls to the wall swimming. Cold water can really knock the wind out of you, and it can really decrease your lung capacity and make you feel like you're drowning if you just hop right in and start swimming. So splash some of the cold water on your face. Just go super easy in the beginning of your swim. You're probably going to have to put your face in and out of the water just a few times, because the first couple times it feels like you can't catch your breath and the wind is being knocked out of you. So take some time. If it's cold water, start your swim slow. Make sure you get a good long, little bit of an extra warm up before you start your actual workout. Inspect your swim entry and exit for any dips in the sand or the lakefront. If you think it's going to be a nice gradual slope out and then there's a big drop off, it's going to be a big surprise for you. Make sure you notice if there's any rocks, because you're going to be in your bare feet, any shells, broken bottles. I mean, sometimes you'll see broken, beer bottles and stuff at swims, and just make sure there's no glass, debris, anything that's going to cut your feet. And again, going back, just the last one is the swim buoy again. If there are rip currents, this is what a rip current would look like at the beach. The rip currents will pull you out away from shore. So if you're trying to swim into shore and you're ending your swim, it's pretty much not going to allow you to get to shore because it's going to keep pulling you out. A lot of people will panic in rip currents, but it's not really any reason to panic. You just have to remain calm and wait till you're out of the rip current, and do not try to swim towards the shore while you're in the rip current. Just keep swimming through it, or let it carry you out a little bit and then swim out of it. Either way is good. Just don't try to swim towards the shore. It's going to make you have a panic attack. It's going to make you nervous, and it's going to be a bad situation. Taking your pool session to the open water. So a lot of us still have our pools closed right now, and we have our swim workouts. Sometimes if you have a coach, your coach is going to give you a swim workout in your plan, and you don't have a pool. Well, obviously, if you have a coach, your coach is going to know that you don't have a pool to swim in, and they're going to modify that for you. But if for some reason you want to move your pool workout to the open water in a different time, at the open water, as you know, there's not a big clock on the wall like at a swimming pool. And usually when we're in the pool, we're either swimming by a pace, meaning, for example, for those newbies, let's just say you've done a time trial and you're let's just do a nice round 2 minutes on the 100. So your swim workout will be based upon a time. So maybe you have to do 10 by 100s leaving on the 2 minute mark or the 2:15 mark, depending on how hard you're supposed to go. Or it is a workout based upon rest intervals. So maybe it's 10 100s at best effort with 20 seconds rest after each 100. Those are the two different ways to write swim workouts. So if you're going to move it to the open water, you have to figure out a way to modify this, because you don't have that big clock in front of you and you can't just keep looking at your Garmin every time you take a stroke. So a couple different ways to vary that is, for example, if your pace is, let's just say 140 for a 100, and the workout calls for 10 by 100s at your time trial pace, you can guesstimate the time. So when you're out in the open water, just go hard for 90 seconds, or a little bit longer, and then you don't have to keep staring at your Garmin to make sure it's exactly a minute and a half, but just get the essence of the workout. So just guesstimate what a minute and a half would be, go hard for that minute and a half, and then take your rest interval after that. The other way you can do it is, instead of using time, you can use strokes. So let's say it takes you 18 strokes to get to the end of the pool in a 25-yard pool, meaning 72 strokes for a 100. So you can just go to the open water and do your 100s by counting strokes instead. So you would go hard for 72 strokes. Um, so you could do something like a pyramid where you're going 25 strokes hard and taking a rest set, 50 strokes hard, rest set, 75 strokes hard, rest set. So sometimes it's a bit easier just to count your arm movements, and it keeps your mind off of things as well, versus using time. And this is pretty much the way I usually do things when I'm open water swimming. If I want to try to do intervals, I'll just usually count my strokes and not really worry about time. And the whole thing is I mean, it's not going to replicate exactly as it would in the pool, but you're getting the gist of the workout. You're getting some speed work in, different things like that. So just you can kind of mix it up. You're not going to do an exact pool workout in the open water, especially if it's a complicated workout where there's a lot of different sets and you're never going to remember it all. So it's just got to be something basic. You can do 100s, you can do 50s, 25s, different things like that if you need to do your speed work in the open water. You can also do your strength sets by using your pool buoy in the open water a couple different ways. You do your pool set, have it in between your legs, your pool buoy, so you're getting that strength workout in, working on your arm movements only. And then when you're on the rest set, you can either switch it over to your friend, and you guys can take turns. One person works on pulling, and the other one just does their recovery swim. Or you can use it for one arm drills. You can take the pull buoy and put it in your left hand and do some one arm swim work. Switch it to the right hand, do some left arm one arm swim work. Or you can also just hold it with both hands and do some kick sets. So there's a lot of different ways you can do your strength sets out in the open water as well, by just modifying and doing some different things with your buoy. All right, so here are some things that I've done over the years with athletes or myself, just to make open water a little bit more fun and entertaining, as well as getting some hard work in and not just going out there and doing a long, easy swim, steady swim. So there's a few different games, I guess you could call them. The first one is entry and exit pyramids. So you can just make up whatever stroke count you want to do, but what you do is you practice your entries, and we'll go through those in a little bit. So do some dolphin dives or some high knee entries, and then go 10 strokes really hard, and then 10 strokes back in, and practice your exit. Get out, catch your breath, practice your dolphin dives and your high knees again, vice versa. 20 strokes hard, out, 20 strokes back, practice your exits, get out to the beach, catch your breath again, go 30 strokes, however you want to mix it up. Or you can go, instead of going straight out, you can go down the beach and back. So something like 10 strokes, 20 strokes, 30 strokes, 20 strokes, 10 strokes, or however you want to do it. This allows you to practice several times your entries and your exits, which are very important to be proficient at, and then get some hard effort swims in, because that's how we start our race. We're always out of breath, trying to swim and catch our breath, get in and get out. So that's good practice for all those things. Another fun way to get some speed work in the open water is sprint to the front game. So what you do is, let's say you have 8 friends you're swimming with, and you're swimming in a single file line, so you're drafting off each other's feet. So now you're getting some practice with drafting in. And then the person who's in the very last of the single file line sprints to the very front of the line, and then gets into now they're the line leader. And as soon as they become the line leader, now the new last person, they're kind of keeping an eye out as to when that person gets to the front. Now it's their turn to sprint to the front. And now they sprint from the back all the way to the front. And it just keeps rotating until all 8 people have had a turn, being the very last person and then the very front line leader. And then you can just repeat that for as many times as you feel is necessary. So that's a super fun way to practice drafting and get some very hard efforts in. Another thing is kind of like the entry and exit pyramids. However, you do it with swimming and running. So this is really fun for that transition practice of that run. You know, you're finishing your swim portion of the race, and you have to run sometimes really far to transition. And you know, especially on sprint races, you're trying to sprint, you know, run super fast, and it gets you really out of breath. So it's a really good idea to practice that. And so you can practice swimming running combo. So you have a predetermined whether it's distance or time. So I'm just, for example, using time on this example. You can do it in ladders, or you can do it in just break it up however you want to do it by time. So for example, you could swim 5 minutes, get out, run 5 minutes, enter back into the pool, swim 10 minutes, get out, run 10 minutes, get back in, swim 15 minutes, get out, run 15 minutes, and then go back down, depending on how much time you want to spend running and swimming. So you can do it like that, where it's a pyramid, or a ladder, sorry. And then, or you can just do like, okay, I'm going to swim 10 minutes, then I'm going to run 10 minutes. I'm going to swim 10 minutes, I'm going to run 10 minutes. Swim 10, run 10, or 15 and 15, or however you want to break it up. So that's just a good way to, again, practice getting your breathing settled while you're swimming, because every time you get done running and you run back in to get to that swim leg, you're out of breath. So it's teaching you how to settle your breathing down, and it's getting your body used to that swim to run transition run. So then we can do a Know Your Buddy game. I couldn't really think of a name for this, but it's like the if you haven't seen it, you have to YouTube Cliff Bar swim entry commercial. And basically the guy is practicing his swim entries, and all his buddies are around him on the sides of him at the lake, hitting him with kickboards and sticks and different things to practice what it feels like getting beat up at the swim start. So you can, you know, take turns having a few people swim and a few people standing around splashing and kind of just swimming next to each other. And then you can do it while you're swimming too. Get all 8 of your friends. I don't know why I keep using the number 8 friends, but get all 8 friends, and you're just swimming all very close to each other, and gently elbowing each other and grabbing their feet and knocking into them, just so you are doing it in a nice way, but you're getting used to mentally and physically used to that rough race start where everybody is swimming on top of each other, you know, not necessarily always on purpose, but you're getting elbowed and your goggles are getting knocked off and people are grabbing at your feet and they're, you know, your stomach's getting kicked and all sorts of stuff. So it's a good idea to practice that with your friends in a gentle manner, of course, while you're swimming or practicing those entries. You can also practice your entries in the same way as where you just all are on the beach. Okay, not right now because it would not be social distancing. However, you get close into a tight group, all 8 like touching each other's shoulders, run out to the swim, start together on your practice swim where you're still kind of knocking into each other, and then all do your dolphin dives and entries together, kind of on top of each other, next to each other, hitting each other, and you can practice your swim starts as well in that way. And then settling your breathing practice. This is a big one to really, you know, work on while you're open water swimming. At every race start, we're all nervous, everyone, and your heart rate is very high, and then your heart's racing, and then you have to run out to the start your race, and so you're running in the crowd of people, and then you're immediately diving into the water, and you're swimming really hard in the beginning to try to get out, you know, get out into a good pack or sometimes get away from the other people, and so your heart rate and your breathing is out of control. So if you practice this while you're in your open water swim sessions, practice and training, you can, you know, how many strokes it takes until you get your breathing settled, or you know, you just get used to the fact of swimming with your breathing rate very high and your heart rate very high, and know that I'll be okay. This is just going to last for a few minutes. You know, I just have to be used to this and just, you know, practice. Sometimes it helps to count strokes or just think of a thought like, I'm out of breath right now, but I'm not going to be as soon as I get around that first turn buoy. I'm going to settle down. You know, practicing that while you're in swim training is a good idea. Bilateral breathing. This is something to be proficient with. You never know which way the chop is going to go on your swim or the waves if you're at the beach swimming so on race day. So be very comfortable swimming, breathing on both sides, on your right and your left. I know most of us feel better on one side or the other, but the more you practice, the more you're going to feel very comfortable on either side. And it'll also give you a little bit of less neck pain. If you're doing a long swim and constantly always taking that breath on the same side, you might get a little bit of tightness. So cuts down on that as well. Drafting, you should always be practicing your drafting. You can swim next to your swim buddy on your right next to their hip. So you're on their hip, getting in their wake right there on the side of them. Your head should be around where their hip is. And then you can also practice drafting off the back of their feet and swimming in their bubbles. You should never tap another person's feet. That is very rude, and it might get you a swift kick right in the nose. So, stay in their bubbles, but don't stay right on where you're tapping their feet. And then, of course, sighting. Sighting is always much easier on race day because you have the big blow up buoys to sight off of. So it is a little bit easier on race day, but in the open water and your swim practice, swim training, you should definitely practice sighting while you're taking a breath. So you're, looking as you're taking a stroke, you're just looking ahead. Try not to raise your head up too high. It drops your hips. It throws your stroke off. It slows you down. And unless you're off course and trying to get undiscombobulated, try not to stop to look. So you're constantly sighting while you're stroking every 3 to 5 strokes or so, and try not to stop and lift your head up and look to see where you are unless you feel lost or confused, which is easy to do on race day. All right, this is just another little picture of your swim buoy, just kind of with someone swimming. It seems like it would bother you, but it really does not bother you at all. This is just a picture of someone drafting off the hip. So you can see their head is right next to the other person's hip. And just showing how we're taking a peek ahead while we're taking a stroke, while we're taking a little breath. You're just like, you take your breath and you look forward as you're putting your head back into the water. You don't stop and lift your head all the way up. This is just a little picture of entries of dolphin diving. So you can watch YouTube just to kind of get the right form for doing your dolphin dive, but it's basically once the water is when you're entering the swim, once it's past your knees, you should start dolphin diving. And it's just basically you're diving forward, touching the ground, and pushing off the ground and back, pushing yourself up and forward. It's always faster to swim if you can, if especially when you're exiting, and you'll see a lot of people, the water will still be waist deep and they're already wading into the beach and getting out of the swim. And if you continue swimming until you start or digging at the sand or the dirt, you're going to get ahead much faster than that person who's trying to wade through waist deep or thigh deep water. Should always be swimming or dolphin diving versus wading through the water until it's at knee level or lower. All right, so now we're just going to talk about a couple ideas of if you don't have a body of open water to practice in, how you can kind of get some open water skills in your swimming pool. So here are just some ideas for that. So one thing is, I'm gonna just use the same number. Get all 8 buddies again. Get those 8 people you swim with all the time, and put everyone into one lane in your pool and swim in that group and get used to that feeling of getting knocked into, getting bumped, getting elbowed. Just put everybody in one lane and just swim down and back. You can also practice drafting in your pool lane. You can get, even just one swim buddy. Both of you are in the same lane. Take turns swimming next to each other at the hip, and then also in front and back behind, swimming in their feet, bubbles from their feet. You can practice sighting in your swimming pool. So maybe that clock that I was talking about on the wall that we don't have in the open water. Yep, that one you can use as your pretend swim buoy. So, you can use that every 3 to 5 strokes, pretend like you're looking at the clock ahead for making that be your swim buoy. And just because you're in the pool doesn't mean you have to actually have a swim workout. You don't have to have like, okay, we're gonna do these drills to warm up. We're gonna do 10 by 100s and we're gonna do 4 by 200s. We're gonna do 3 400s. You don't have to do that if you're swimming, especially training for a 70.3 or an Ironman race. You can have one of your swim sessions where you just get into the pool and base it on time and you're just swimming back and forth without stopping. So if you think your 70.3 swim is going to be 35 minutes, just get in the pool and swim back and forth for 35 minutes. Yes, it's boring, but it gets your body used to that constant, just continuous long swim set. The sprint to the front game that we talked about doing in the open water, you can also do in the pool. So you are all in one lane again, but this time you're seeing, instead of bumping into each other and swimming in a big group, you're in that single file line, and then the person takes off. This definitely works better if it's long course. It would just, but you can still do it on the 25-yard short course pool. But again, the last person sprints to the front, and just like I said before, and then they're the line leader, then the person from the rear sprints to the front again, then they're the line leader. Practicing vertical kicking, go to the deep end and try to keep your hands out of the water and just engage your core and really get those legs kicking back and forth. This is really good if you know that your race is going to be an in the water swim start and you're going to have to be sitting there hanging out in the water for a while, treading water. So that's very good to practice vertical kicking, treading water in the pool. Up and Outs is a game we play at QT2 camp. So those of you on the call, if any of you have been at the QT2 camp, you know this workout. So we're all in the pool. You get your swim group in the lane and you're sprinting down and back to the other side of the pool. You come down, you get out, you pull yourself up and out of the pool, run around a cone, enter back in, sprint to the end and back, and continuously sprint, get up, run around the cone, get back in. And that gets you used to those two loop swims, especially where you are swimming for an amount of time and then you have to get out in between your two loops or three loops, whatever it might be, and run down the beach and then get back in and start swimming again. So that's a good workout to practice that. We can also practice another camp workout. We get everyone in the lane away from the wall. No one's allowed to touch the wall. Get, all your lane buddies in a little pack again. Again, not a socially distanced workout, but, hopefully one day we'll be able to do this again. Get together, and then all of a sudden you get horizontal because that's the best position to get in for an in the water swim start. So you get ready right before you get ready to take off. You get into a horizontal position, so belly is facing the floor of the pool. And then all of a sudden someone yells go, and then in that pack you sprint to the end of the pool. And you can do that however many times you like. And then finally, again, getting that heart rate, learning how to become comfortable with settling your heart rate down, your breathing down while you're still swimming without stopping. So, most people, when their breathing gets out of control and their heart rate is racing, they want to stop and tread water or back, float on their backs and settle their breathing down, which is fine. If you need to do that, by all means, it's better than the alternative. However, if you can become comfortable with getting your heart rate up, getting your breathing out of control, and learning how to control it and settle it down while you're still swimming, that's going to set you up for the best scenario for race day. So that's another thing that's very easy to practice in the pool. All right, now we're going to move into different types of swim starts and finish up with those race day tips. So first of all, especially before 70.3 and the full Ironman distance, there's a long time in most situations that you are hanging out waiting to start the race. Especially on those, I know, especially like for Chattanooga, Ironman Chattanooga, you're bussed to the swim start. It's a point-to-point swim for the 70.3 as well. Same thing with Augusta 70.3. It's a point-to-point swim. Most of those river swims are point-to-point. So you're bussed or you're shuttled or however you get there, you're taken to the swim start, and if you want to get up there in the front part of the line to get that swim started early, you're hanging out for a long time just sitting around. Some mornings can be very cold, so it's a good idea to bring like an old trash bag or some sweats that you don't mind throwing away at the swim start. Usually there's a place you can drop those things. And also probably bring an electrolyte drink in a bottle that you don't mind tossing, and a granola bar, a little snack, because you can be sitting there for a good 2 hours waiting for the race to start. So, bring a snack, bring an electrolyte drink. If it's a cold morning, bring some clothes that you can throw away, and just try to get with your buddies and hang out. And you're going to be nervous and you're going to be excited. And so if you have friends nearby, it kind of makes the time go by a little bit faster. All right, so now we're going to talk about the types of triathlon starts. Now, back quite a few years ago at this point, all Ironman full distance one races were mass swim starts. So everybody would line up at the same time and everyone would go enter the water at the same time. And it was a huge amount of people, elbows everywhere. The water was choppy and rough because there were so many people entering the water all at once. Um, it was a pretty exciting time. But they learned, I guess, that those weren't always the safest way to start people on swims where you have 2 or 3 thousand people starting all at once. So Ironman has started the Swim Smart initiative. So they have at most races they have a designated warm up area to make sure your body's nice and warm before you're used to the water and you're ready to start. And they've also cut down on everyone starting at once. And so most races these days, some of them even full Ironmans are age group starts. Most of the 70.3s, they're a combo between age group starts and rolling starts. But most of the races these days have moved to rolling swim starts, which we'll take a peek at and I'll explain. So here's a picture of the Ironman Lake Placid rolling swim start in a lake. So if you've ever done a road race and a running race and you've started, you want to be with a pace group, say, and there's people with signs saying, this is the hour and 30 pace group. This is the hour and 45 pace group for a half marathon. It's just like that. There will be a person with a sign saying, anyone planning on swimming their 2.4 in under an hour, line up behind me. And then the next sign may say, anyone planning on swimming 1 hour to 110, line up behind me. 110 to 120, 120 to 130, and then it goes to 15-minute increments after that. And as you know, you have 2 hours and 20 minutes to finish the full Ironman swim. So it goes all the way to 2 hour, up to the 2 hour and 20 mark. And everyone just kind of gets in a big mass. As you can see in this picture, you can see the little signs. There's my cursor. There's one of the little signs. And then so all these people, let's just say behind this sign is 1 hour and 10 to 1 hour and 20 right here. And so then this sign may say 120 to 130. So then all the people behind this sign, all these people are the 120 to 130 group. So what happens when the race starts is they blow the horn and then the people just step out of the way. The leader with the sign, if you can see the sign right here, he just moves to the side, or she, and then all these people will just start filing in nicely, hopefully, and they'll enter the lake and they'll start their swim, and everyone just starts walking forward at the same time. It's not a complete stop. It's just more or less a little pause. So once all these people are in and all these people are still moving forward at the same time, then this person with this sign just steps out of the way once he's up here, or she. And then this group files into the water, and so forth until everyone's in the water. Usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes to get all the people into the water and get them rolling on their swim. So it makes it a little safer, a little more gentle than those old those mass starts they used to do a long time ago. Then here's a picture of on a beach, the Gulf, Ironman Florida, rolling swim start. So they line up the same way. You can see the signs a little better in this picture, except they line up parallel to the shore versus like at Lake Placid was just all away from the lake. These guys are all lined up right along the water, but they are walking in this direction and then entering under the timing arch, going out into the water. So that's just a little better picture of, you can see the signs here. Blow that up a little bit. So this one you can see says 1 hour and 1 minute I think something like that. So you can see that. Then here is a picture, Ironman Texas. Now here's a different way. They still do the rolling starts. They still have the people lining up based upon their time, but they're walking down a boat ramp. So it's a sloped concrete ramp. They're just filing in from the water there. That's just another way to start. Now, when we're talking about the seated starts, you definitely want to be honest about your estimated swim time. If you think like, oh, it's going to take you an hour and 15 minutes to swim, then that's the group you should be in. If you think, if it's an hour and 10 to an hour and 20 group, and you're going to be an hour and 15, then you need to be right in the middle of that group. If you think it's going to take you an hour and 10, get up closer to the person with the sign, stand right behind them. It's really important to be honest with your swim time. You're not going to magically be extra fast on race day. You pretty much have your swim time at a good guesstimate by race day. And if you go up with the group that's say an hour swimmers and you're going to take an hour and 15, first of all, they're going to be really mad because you're going to be blocking some people. And second of all, you're going to get completely swum on top of these people swimming so fast around you, and you're going to be floundering. If you get in a slower swim group thing like, oh, I'm scared and I don't want to, I'm going to go to the back because I just want to take my time getting the race started. Well, then you are going to be trapped behind slow swimmers and you're going to be blocked and you're not going to be able to get around them. So it is very important to be swimming with people of like ability. Ironman Arizona in the water swim start. So when it's an in the water swim start, there's usually a bunch of paddleboarders that are holding everyone back behind a certain point. And then when the race start, the horn goes off, everyone goes horizontal, and they just start swimming. So that's a picture of an in the water start. And then there's also jumping off of a dock start. So some races, Chattanooga is one of them. Most of the river starts, especially, you are still either based on age group or rolling start, and you with your group you file down to the dock, and then they'll tell you when to jump in. They usually have 2 or 3 people jumping in at once, depending on the size of the dock. You can either take a small dive forward, just make sure you're not diving on top of anyone, or you can just, like this guy's doing, just step right into the water. I like to personally hold my goggles when I jump into a river like this, just so they don't fly off the back of my head. Also, while we're on that topic, it is a good idea with your goggles. I think that it might come later when I'm talking, but just in case, it's a good idea to wear your goggles under your swim cap so things like that don't happen. So if someone does kick your goggles, instead of falling off, they'll just kind of move to the back of your head and the straps will still be under your swim cap, so you won't necessarily lose your goggles that way. Another point while we're talking about river swims, most of the rivers have a pretty strong current, so you need to be aware of where your swim exit is and start moving over towards the exit well in advance so you don't get whooshed past the swim exit. I know, for example, in Augusta, the current is stronger in the middle of the river, so a lot of people will tend to try to get into the middle of the river where the current is stronger, because stronger current equals faster swim time, and that's what we want on race day. However, you need to be very aware of where the boat ramp is, and so get out of the middle of the river in time to get over to the swim exit so you're not whooshed past it. Because if you're whooshed past it, it's going to be very challenging, if even possible, to turn around, depending on the speed of the current, to turn around and swim against the current to make your way back to the swim exit. Okay, yeah, here's a picture. This is one year we were up at Ironman Florida. This was the way the swim started, and everyone thought the day before that the swim would be canceled, or else that it would settle down before race morning. It did not settle down. The swim was not canceled. So this was the swim entry. So this is just a picture to tell you, coming from Florida and doing all of my open water swim training in the Gulf, it is better in a swim situation like this, if you're entering, dive under the waves. Do not try to go over them. Do not try to go through them. Dive underneath the water, under the wave, and you will not even feel that wave. And usually once you get past these big initial waves, the water will probably be choppy, but you will not have waves pummeling at you once you get past the breakers. So take comfort in knowing that this could be a swim start. And if it is, it's very scary in the beginning getting past all this mess. But once you get past it, you're usually pretty good. You can see from this picture that once you get the water definitely calms down a lot. It's a little choppy and you can see white caps here and there, but it definitely settles down a bit. All right, different types of swim exits. So we have the beach swim here. This is Ironman Florida again, and this is a 2-loop course, and you are filing in, again here, really, it's just pretty much a walk-in. You're not needing to run or do dolphin dives because after all, this is a long Ironman day. You don't have to like get your hurried up unnecessary here. You're going to exit out from this first loop through the little timing thing and then re-enter over here at a diagonal. And if you are exiting on your second loop, you're just going to walk out. You're going to come through the timing arch, and usually on the fulls and the halves, there is wetsuit peelers. So when you're exiting on that beach, of the lake swim or a Gulf swim, what you want to do is first remove your swim cap and goggles, and then unzip and peel your wetsuit down to your waist. If you try to start unzipping and peeling your wetsuit down, I'm sorry, you want to peel your wetsuit down before you take your swim cap and goggles off. I said that backwards. So your hands are free to unzip and peel your shoulders off, peel it down to your waist, so the wetsuit peeler has an easier time of removing the wetsuit for you. Once your wetsuit is unzipped and pulled to your waist, then remove your swim cap and goggles because now you can just hold them in your hand while you're running or walking up to the wetsuit peelers. Once you get to the wetsuit peelers, try to find someone, point at them, and say, "Can you help me?" So it's just not willy nilly. So you find one specific person, make eye contact with them or point to them and ask, "Can you take my wetsuit off?" You're going to lay down on the ground, on your back, put your feet in the air, and point your toes so they can rip your wetsuit off, and they will hand it to you, and then you can run on to your transition. Some of the races have a stair exit, especially the river swims, or if you're swimming in a reservoir. Ironman Arizona, for example, is a stair exit. Ironman Chattanooga is a stair exit. There's quite a few races that you are going to just swim. The water's still deep, and you swim right up to the stairs. And sometimes it's a little challenging because you're a little discombobulated. You've been face down, especially if it's a 2.4 swim, and you're going to be a little dizzy. But these volunteers here are wonderful, and they're going to grab your arm and pull you up and help you get up and get up those stairs. Here's just a bigger overall picture. This is the exit for Ironman Chattanooga, and you can see these are your final 2 buoys. You're swimming through the buoys and around, and then the stairs are over here, and then you're running down and up to your transition area. It's quite a long transition run here at this particular Ironman race. Also, another type of exit can be a boat ramp. Again, just like we talked about the boat ramp start at Ironman Texas, especially this is a picture of Augusta 70.3. So it's just where people wheel their boats in. Right here is a long slanted cement slope. It is slippery when you stand up because if you think this is just concrete here and the water sits and the moss grows, and so this gets very slick with the wet slimy moss when you stand up. So be careful. There are usually volunteers there to help grab you again, and then it's an uphill run to transition at this point. All right, so I think we've covered the different types of swims. So what we're going to do next and end with actually is some race day tips. So we're going to talk about before your race. So a lot of these are common sense for different points of your race, but always do pre-race visualization before race day. You're going to you can visualize yourself looking out doing the race, or you can look at yourself from a bird's eye view of like you're somebody else and you're watching yourself do the race. And think about like all the things you see smell, hear, and feel all throughout the race. I personally like to buy new goggles a week or two before the race and then just swim in them once or twice just to make sure they're tight enough or not too tight. And then that way I know I don't have to worry about having scratched or goggles fogging up because they're old. Also, bring a backup pair of goggles to the not swim start, but to your transition, just in case something happens. Somebody might have forgotten their goggles, or maybe you're getting ready and realize your goggle strap broke, something like that. So it's good to have a backup pair. Also, it's good to have a smoked pair of goggles, or tinted, I should say, and a clear pair, or a pair if it's going to be a foggy or cloudy day, because you may want to not do tinted if it's dark out and it's going to be super cloudy and not sunny. So have a couple different options. And again, like, make sure the ones you're going to use are newer. If you're able to, always swim part of the race course in the day or two before your race. Usually we get to those bigger races a few days prior. Sometimes they don't allow you to swim, but if they do, definitely swim a little bit of the course. It makes you feel so much better on race day. And if they do not let you swim, at least go to where the swim start is around the same time the race is going to be starting, and just notice where the sun is how bright the sun is, where it sits, and just different how things look in that light, and the different sighting points, maybe some buildings you can sight off of, different things like that. Again, common sense for the most part, but definitely know the water temperature, and if it's wetsuit legal, try to figure out if it's going to be choppy or rough or big waves, and just make that part of your visualization. If you know ahead of time that your swim is going to be rough, like that picture I showed you of Ironman Florida, then visualize yourself going through the waves and breathing and trying to calm yourself on those waves. Also, on race, in the days before the race, take notice of where the entry and the exit is, and if there's anything to watch out for. Again, just like when we talked about earlier tonight about swim training, notice if there's any big dips, or if there's rocks or the slimy moss, anything like that that you need to be aware of. Oh yeah. Okay, this is the last two slides. 15 random but useful race tips. At least I think they're useful. Sunscreen fogs up your goggles. I know we need it. However, try not to get it anywhere near where the goggles are going to be. Just put it on the lower half of your face. Your swim cap's going to cover the forehead, and then you can put more on later in transition. But if your sunscreen gets under your goggles, it will fog your goggles up, and your swim is not going to be fun. Again, I said it already, but wear your goggles under your swim cap, and then bring a pair of backup goggles just in case. Definitely do a pre-race warm-up and reflection. This helps personally me calm my nerves so much before a race. I like to swim out to wherever we're allowed to warm up, and I swim out, and then I look back on shore. I watch the sun coming up, and I see all the triathletes getting ready to start their race, and I take a moment to think like how much hard work it was to get to this morning, and how much hard work all of those athletes standing on shore has put in to get to this day, and try to think about what a great day it's going to be and how we all deserve to be here based upon our hard work. And it just really kind of calms your nerves and gets your day started off on a positive note. Also, definitely warming up, doing a short little swim gets your body used to the water, so it's not such a shock when it gets in right before you get ready to race, especially if it's cold. And if it is cold water and you're thinking like, well, I don't want to get into the cold water and then I'm going to be cold standing on shore, it's still a good idea, because it's definitely gonna, if you get into the cold water and get that initial shock over before you start, you can still, some of the races, you can still stand in the water and just keep splashing while you're waiting to start. After your warm up swim, just keep splashing the water on your face, just to keep your body used to that cold feeling. It just makes it better when you get back in. Always know how many buoys are on the swim course, and that way you know where you are. You get a little discombobulated, especially on the longer swims. So know how many buoys there are. If there's 6 and you've counted 3, you're halfway done. Break the swim into chunks, especially the longer swims. So you can look at a 2.4 mile swim and think, wow, I mean, that looks way more than 2.4 miles. How am I ever going to swim all that distance? And you just don't think of it that way. Think I have 2 loops to swim, or I have 10 buoys to swim, or I have to, do 4 half miles chunks, or however you want to break it down. Just don't look at the whole picture. And that's the same for the race day in general, especially for the 70.3 and the full Ironmans. It's really daunting to stand at the beginning of the day and think of all the things you have ahead of you. So you just break it down into tiny chunks. You just have to get through the swim. Then you have to get through however many aid stations on the bike, or however you want to break that down. And then you got to get through however many loops of the run, and just break the whole day into small pieces. At the swim start, if it's a pro race, watch where the pros position themselves to start. But this is more important, for example, when it's a Gulf swim, and there's a strong current moving, or maybe a river swim when there's a strong current. Um, just watch where the pros place themselves to start, and then try to mimic what they do. And if it's not a pro race, watch where the earlier starters place themselves. Just know what's going on. Pay attention to the other groups that are going off ahead of you, and see where they're being pulled. So, for example, if the current is moving, let's just say the current's moving strong, and it's a Gulf swim and it's moving south, you're not going to want to line yourself up with that buoy. If the buoy's, for example, on your left shoulder, you're going to want go up a little north, because when you enter the water, it's going to pull you south. And as we know, we have to clear that first turn buoy on a certain side. So if have the current has pulled you on the opposite side of that first buoy, you're going to have to swim against the current to get up and back around that buoy. So sometimes it helps to place yourself far away from where you think, that first buoy is, and then it's pulling you in the direction you need to go, so you're not getting pulled past it. So be aware of where you need to place yourself at the swim start. Almost done. Um, Take comfort in knowing at the swim start, it doesn't matter if it's someone's 100th race or their first race, everyone is very nervous and scared and excited, and everyone's wondering what the day is going to bring for them, especially on the longer races. What might go wrong, what's going to go well, how long is it going to take to finish. Everyone has all these thoughts and these nerves going on in their head. So you can take, if it's your first race, for example, just take comfort in knowing even the very experienced athletes are just as nervous as you are. I like to say, fake it till you make it at the swim start. No matter how scared you are, if this is your first race and you feel like you're going to drown on the swim, pretend that you're the best swimmer in the world. Line up at the swim, put your shoulders back, put your hands on your hips, hold your head high, look straight and forward, and be very focused and look very confident. And sometimes faking that feeling will make you feel so much better about yourself. Imaginary suit of armor. So the first 100 yards are super rough, and people are not purposely, mostly, elbowing and punching and kicking. And I like to try to keep my arms more outstretched in front of me when I'm taking my strokes, kind of like almost like catch up swimming, if you know what that is, where you're not moving one hand back till the other hand is in front of you. And I pretend that I have a suit of armor on me, and no matter what happens, I'm protected, and people are going to kick me, but it's not going to hurt because I'm very protected in my suit of armor. Just a little visualization tip that I do on my race day. Stay in the moment, and again, this is for the whole race, not just the swim. Stay in the moment and don't worry about what might happen ahead of you, or what has already happened that didn't go well. So you can only control what is happening right on that very moment of the race. So if, for example, you forgot to do a gel when you got out of the swim, and you think your whole day is ruined because you're behind on your nutrition, or you thought your swim was going to be an hour and 15 on Ironman and it ended up being an hour and 25, there's nothing you can do about it at this point. You just have to let it go and focus on getting through the rest of your day in a positive way. You also can't worry about what's going to happen down the road. So you can't think like, oh, what if I get a blister on my toe at mile 18 of the run and I can't run anymore, or I crash my bike or whatever it might be. You can't think about any of those things. Just focus on the one moment right now and what you can control, which is a positive mindset, your pacing of your race, your fueling and nutrition. Those are the only things you can control. There's nothing else that you need to worry about. At the end of your swim, the last few hundred yards, kick a little lighter but quicker to get the blood flow back to your legs. Your arms have been doing most of the work up to this point. So when you go to stand up, if you don't get that blood flow back to your legs, you get a little bit lightheaded and dizzy. So get the blood flow back to the legs in those final few hundred yards. And so then when you stand up, it's going to be a lot easier. And we already discussed this, but wetsuit swim. Take your wetsuit off and peel it to your waist first, and then remove your swim cap and goggles. And I think I typed it backwards even. All right, and then finally, last thing of the day, go have the best race day ever because you survived the swim. That's the one thing we all worry about. Like, as soon as I get out of the swim, I'm gonna be fine. I think the swim is the one thing most people are the most afraid of and the thing we have the least control over. And once we're on solid ground on our bikes or our runs, we're golden. So you got out of the swim and now you can go have your good race day. All right, so that took a little longer than I thought. We're at 8 o'clock almost. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the question box. I'll, give you a couple minutes here if you have any questions. And if you don't want to ask them on here, you can email me, Jackie@qt2systems.com, and we will conclude now unless anyone has any questions. But thanks for joining me. I hope everyone's safe, and I hope you guys get some swimming in. And I hope most of you are done with your dry land training by now. I know those bands got a little, not only did they burn our shoulders, they were a little boring too. So hopefully everybody can get to the pool or some open water. Feel free to come down and visit me in Florida. I have lots of open water I can let you swim in with me. All right, have a good night, everyone.